Music channel. Thank you so much for tuning in for Sunday at Mike's on the Upstairs to the Right Music channel. I always start out by saying thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time with me. Time is a valuable thing, and for you to spend some of yours with me is really always going to be forever appreciated. Thank you so much for that, guys. I hope you've been well this week. I have been okay. Let me check my settings here. Yeah, everything was good. Scott, how you doing? Mr. Watson, how you doing? Welcome to you guys. Yeah, it's I bought a new 4K camera lens this week, and I decided that I would try it out with that video that I shot talking about the dangers of buying guitars in Japan right now. And sure enough, it shot it in 4K, but it was so dark. And I have on the same amount of lights that I had on right now that I had on with that video. And this is perfectly lit. I was trying to drag everything I could. So I'm going to have to rethink that one. I'm going to have to learn how to use that new lens. The video still is okay. It's just so dark. I guess that's all right because it adds kind of a mood to it, I suppose. But still, man, that was pretty funny. Mr. Allmark in the house, how you doing? Good to see you. But it's a nice lens. It's a Japanese, of course, lens, and because I just it's just so much cheaper for me to buy things in Japan right now and bring them over. But it's a really nice one, and so I'm going to try again this week. I'm going to shoot another one on another topic, and I'm going to try to get the lighting a little bit better. But I guess we're moving into October. I should have had a candle or something, and then I could have said it was the Halloween special. But anyway, I hope you guys check that out. Not every my podcast, my shorts, they all do very well. For some reason, my regular content is in the tank. So if you haven't seen that video yet, do take the time to go over and take a look at it and comment down and hit the like. That would be really appreciated. Is it also a neutral density filter too? See, you're asking questions now that I do not know. I really don't know. I said, I want a 4K lens. This is how much I want to pay for it. This is the best one in that price group. Went for it. Now I've got to learn how to use it. Let's see. He's given me a link here. Um, yeah, oh, that's my link. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen this video, please take the time to do so. Hit the like button. Uh, just really dark. I'm serious. I had the same amount of light on that I have right now, and I don't even have, I don't even have my spare light on right now. That was just something. So I'm gonna have to learn. That's cool. That's all right. It gets better. At least I can shoot in 4K now, which is very important for YouTube. They really, really like it if you shoot, you know, with a certain, consistency of 4K. Sometimes I was doing some 4K, sometimes I wasn't. But in any case, that also means I better make sure I make myself look better because you're going to be seeing me in 4K. Maybe that was a subconscious thing I was doing there. Just a thought. You know, I always describe YouTube I metaphorically describe YouTube as a high school cafeteria. I don't know how it is these days, but back in the early '80s when I was in high school, you had a cafeteria and you had certain tables and certain people sat at certain tables. Certain cliques is what they called them. And I always say that our table, which is the guitar nerd and gear in general nerd table, exists, and it is also sharing that cafeteria with other tables as well. I always joke and say, well, there's the golf club table because there's guys out there who discuss the newest golf club and vintage golf clubs. There really is. You can well imagine on YouTube. There's got to be. So, um, of course, consequently, there would be a gamers table, which is a pretty big, table, at YouTube. And I don't know why, but for some reason, I guess it's some of the related channels that I watch, but for some reason, occasionally I get gamer channels popping up into my feed. And the one that caught my eye just a day or so ago was discussing issues with Xbox and how recently they have upped their subscription fees by 50%. Now, as you guys know, and so tonight's discussion, the subscription trap when Xbox and the company that shall not be named cross the line is kind of a crossover event. Like on the CW, they used to have the crossovers with the Flash and Arrow. So we're crossing over with their table tonight because they woke up to something that folks at our table, if we can extend the metaphor, have been well aware of for quite a while now. And that is that, the squeeze is on, and the you shall own nothing and be happy kind of mantra that people talk about and joke about, but it's not so fun anymore when you're actually seeing it happen before your eyes. So I want to talk about that tonight. You know, now what I saw on the Gamer channel was the Xbox Game Pass shot up to about $30 a year. Ben Allmark. I played a baseball game via an app on my iPad for years. And then he redacted. Hey, I have that, game thing. It's a little handheld console, the R64S, and that thing has 20,000 games on it. The old retro arcade games, but the ones that I like, and I'm good with that. But I also have an Xbox as well, and I do play that game whenever I want to just kind of blow off some steam and have, I've done everything else that needs to be done, and I have time to do that. I will sit down and play Halo. I still like playing Halo. And so I guess maybe that's a reason why I get it. Something going on there. But now, by the way, there used to be a Game Pass system on there. You paid I was paying $9 a month, or no, I'm sorry, $14 a month, $15 a month, and you had access to their entire library plus first, release videos, games. Never bothered with any because there was only two games on the system that I was interested in, which after a while I canceled it. And I'm glad that I did because now it's gone up to $30 a month or $360 a year. And so the backlash was pretty instant. Um, and I'll talk about the backlash that occurred within the gamer over at the gamer table. If you were sitting there quietly enjoying your lunch and you heard a ruckus from that direction, this is kind of filling you in as to what it was about. And the whole situation, gamers, basically, the punchline is they in mass started canceling their Game Pass with Xbox. And if we think back to when the company, I guess for tonight's purposes, I have to say Waves, went to a subscription model and cut all of us guys out that they promised lifetime, um, plugins to, and you can't access it, or they've really put up such blocks to it that it's incredible. And so it all leads to ownership. It all points to ownership, or rather, should I say, actually, the loss of it. catch up here in the chat. Too long to go on about. Long story short, I lost a bunch of money that was invested in it. Proof gone. Sorry about your luck. Yeah, yeah. This again. What can be said. Um, so I kind of like that fact that for not a lot of money. Even the lower tier that was $9.99, and you still had access to everything, and you got access to the new games within a couple of months, and you got this thing called rewards, Xbox rewards, and basically, if you did just played a few games, you got about $10 a month, and you could roll that back into paying off your monthly subscription. So it's if you were on the low tier at $9.99, it literally they were paying you to be part of their ecosystem. And so investors need higher returns every year. Yeah, and that's a part of it actually, Scott. Is that one of the things is that Xbox bought a lot of the studios. They spent $52 billion or some astronomical figure like that to acquire all these video games studios so that they could have the library that they had, so they could justify charging what they were, which people were happy with. It was a profitable thing. They were making about $30 billion a year from that. So in 2 years, they could easily recoup what they've invested into, 3 years. Anyway, within a few years, they could recoup what they invested into those studios. And for some reason, they decided to kill the golden goose and raise the prices, and people just said, "No, we don't see the value anymore." They basically took the value of what they had and the good thing that they had going for them, which was the low cost for such a huge library of games, and just completely, cut the balls off that. I guess is the kindest and easiest way to put it. And people just canceled in waves. No pun intended. um, the Reddit games were full of gamers saying, I don't even own the games I'm paying for. And that's the key point. You don't. And the moment that you stop paying, everything disappears. Or if you don't join up to their new subscription paywall in the course of waves, everything disappears. It's just like renting a house you can never own in a way. Although it's just one of those things that woke the gaming um, table up. They really started saying to themselves, "Hey, wait a minute! Oh, this is what they were talking about when they said, you you own nothing, and in this case, not even love it." And so they quit in mass, so much so that they crashed the Xbox cancellation website. The website for canceling was crashed. And of course, Xbox is like Waves and everybody else. They do what they do, and then they come out with their excuses, but it never changes. It is what it is. And this is the same kind of logic. So I can move away from that now. And then tie this into the bigger discussion that it's this exact same logic that's spreading across the entire creative field, not just gaming. You don't buy things anymore. You rent indefinitely as long as you pay. Music, you've got, you don't if you don't own a CD collection, then guess what? Guess what? Or a record collection, guess what? You know. recording software, plugins, it's all been locked behind subscriptions. Wow. That means that there'll be a day when truly only the children of the rich can afford to become, to do music and to become, the next big thing. Because you're locked out of that process. It's the new custodians, the new gatekeepers. Just like you used to be locked out of the old studio system unless you were in with one of the big majors or work for one of them like I did, or you didn't get in. And that system went away, and now this one is the new one. And so there's just nothing good to it. There's nothing good to it. Ben Allmark, I think that could be part of the reason they want everybody driving electric cars. So eventually they can dictate where you can go, yeah, and how much fuel they'll be able to ration your fuel for, They make laws that says that you can't build your own, generator in order to generate power for your own car with using solar, all that stuff. It's just again, it's I've been looking for that quote and from Frank Zappa. I'm going to try one more time. Damn it, I'm going to do it live. I'm going to try one more time. So bear with me, guys, about the curtain. Hold on. One second, guys. And you seeing a brick wall. Okay, sorry for the long pause. I hope 3 Chord Dave isn't watching because he was highly critical of this kind of shenanigans. Here it is. I found it. Okay. It's the Frank Zappa quote about illusion and perception in entertainment and culture. Read this. I'm so I say why haven't I been asking Chat GPT? I don't use it generally, uh, but I should be using it for stuff like this because here I found it exactly. The illusion of freedom will continue as this is Frank Zappa, by the way. The illusion of freedom will continue as long as it's profitable to continue. The illusion. I read that a little scatter. I'll do it again. The illusion of freedom will continue as long as it's profitable to continue the illusion. At the point where the illusion becomes too expensive to maintain, they will take down the scenery, move the tables and chairs out of the way, and you will see the brick wall at the back of the theater. The meaning here is clear. Zappa was warning that what we perceive as freedom or authentic culture is often just carefully managed as a stage set. And again, this is coming from Zappa, who we talked about with the Laurel Canyon tie-in, which was which was the quintessential, managed stage set without any question, both there and in the UK at the same time. And so he would know what he's speaking about. And so when it's no longer convenient for those who are in charge to maintain that illusion, the curtain goes up and you finally see the brick wall behind the performance. And I think that these things that we're seeing, the gamers are waking up to it. We've certainly seen it. That pedal that came out that you know that all the presets were behind a paywall. That Boss pedal, yeah, that was a stinker. Big O'Reilly fan, I'm guessing Ben says. Me? Bill O'Reilly? No, I love that quote. I love that scene because it was a big meme on YouTube a few years ago where he got mad at something. He didn't have the notes or something. He was like, "Damn it, I'm going to do it live," and and that just tickled me and a lot of other people so much. I think even he found it funny when they brought it up to him years later. It's just a funny thing. But that's Zappa, and again, he was part of that managed circus, one of the ringleaders. So certainly it gives me pause. When I see this, it's one thing for us to see it over in our little table, but for the other table, hell, soon enough, there's going to be a paywall behind golf clubs. They'll lock you out of your golf club if you don't play, if you don't pay the monthly subscription. So that's coming. But when you see it occurring in other things, then certainly what you got there is something that's not a coinky dink at all. It's a pattern. Michael Watson, I could listen to Zappa quotes all day. Yeah, that's the one that really sticks out to me. I'm glad I finally had 2 cents in my brain together to ask the stupid Chat GBT. That quote is from 1977. You know, uh, and it was on Zappa on air with Jim Ladd in an interview on his radio channel. Is Zappa on air? I vaguely remember that, but a guy who would know. And this stuff is not by coincidence, as I was saying. Waves Audio for decades, they were a household name in music production. And I, as you know, personally use Waves on every record that I did from 2011 on to the last one, or the one before the last. And here's the thing, they used to sell licenses with lifetime guarantees to them. And you bought the plug-in and it was yours. But then one day they flipped the switch, as you guys recall, overnight. They completely made it so that you couldn't get access to because it was a Waves portal that you had to go into. They completely blocked that portal out, created a new portal, and you were basically effed in the A, as Cartman once said. And that really felt like a slap in the face, to be honest. I can laugh about it now, but I spent a lot of money, like a really decent guitar or two, worth of money on Waves plugins, and you couldn't update, you couldn't re-download your purchased stuff. Instead, they came up with a subscription and a lame excuse, which is which is countered by what Xbox did. Is they came out with an increase and a lame excuse. And by the way, those increases will just increase. And if you got suckered into the Waves one, I haven't checked because, like I said, I don't care about them anymore. I'm sure whatever the initial price is, it's gone up as well, and it will continue to squeeze you and squeeze you until, as Frank said, "Baby, it ain't profitable no more. Let's pull the plug on it." Imagine if you're a plumber. You you got all your tools, you put it in a toolbox, you lock toolbox at night, you go to bed, you wake up in the morning, you go to open up your toolbox to get something, and you find out that you've been locked out of it, even though you paid for those tools. And the guy who told you in the box that it came in, there's a joke in that, but I'll leave that one alone. Told you that those were your tools. Um, And then you wake up one morning and you don't have access to the contents of what's inside the box that you thought you paid for. And that is exactly, without any question, what Waves did. That's exactly what they did. In the case of Xbox, what the guy did is he sold you a toolbox, you know, and said to you when you woke up one morning, well, we had to do a little bit of scrounging around this year for money, 52 billion here, 52 billion there. Yeah, it kind of adds up. So we're going to increase by 50%, what it's going to cost you every month to open up your toolbox, you know. And so I remember the day clearly I bought, plugins on Waves. I would do it, there was there was a compressor that I used a lot. There was a compressor on there that I used a great deal. And I felt total betrayal when they locked me out of using it. I had to find something else that worked because I was never happy with the ones that came with most of the plugins that come with Studio One. And I had to rebuild my plugins from there. Some I got free, and some of the free ones were better than the ones I paid for. And some of them I had to pay for. So it was a slap in the face, and it took time. And it's one of the things that really wants me to one day, when I'm recording, which I basically am now, just in retirement, I guess, but just still wanting to do it for the sake of doing it. I don't want to be screwing around with, plugins or DAWs. I'm going to go hardware one of these days because one of these days, I'm sure that even the DAW is going to go under a subscription model and you're not going to be able to get in. So you're paying a subscription for your DAW, you're paying a subscription for the plugins that you're using, you're paying it. You see how it adds up? It's a big squeeze. And who can really afford that? You know. This is where things get kind of scary because these are not isolated events, as I was pointing out. These are not coincidence. As Jim Gordon famously said, you know, in the Dark Knight Returns, he said, "We're detectives now. We're not allowed to believe in coincidences. We're moving into a world where you really will owe nothing, and everything will be subscription based, from your software to your car, as was being pointed out earlier with electric cars. Even your fridge, is going to have ads on it. Oh, wait a minute, it already does. Those Samsung fridges already are putting ads. Come downstairs and you got to see. Never mind, that's gross. I mean, you don't want an ad you don't want to see. 6 o'clock in the morning on your fridge when you're trying to just get your orange juice. you know, so you know What's dangerous isn't just the price, the money, it's the control. When you don't own your tools, you don't control your work. So they can dictate, when and where and why and if you can work. Access can be revoked. Um, Prices can be changed. They're never down. They're always upward. Or they can discontinue features at any time. And that's exactly what Waves did. And that's just what Xbox did. And again, it's a pattern. I have analog pedals, as you know, uh, with one exception, and that is the Pocket Master that I got. And this thing, has software that you can control it through your phone. Uh, but there is no lockouts to this. There's no subscription to this. It is what it is. When it fails, and that'll be as Scott pointed out, would probably be the lithium battery in it. When that fails, it's gone. But the thing is, it it's things like this. The reason I've been singing the praises of something like this is because they can't lock you out of this, and it's affordable and for everybody. Any musician at any price, whether you're wealthy or poor, can afford to buy a Pocket Master, and they can't lock you out of it, and it gives you freedom. And so that is the antithesis of that boss pedal where you can only use one friggin' effect at a time with it anyway. It wasn't, this thing is a Swiss Army knife. That boss pedal was a friggin', wooden spoon. And you can only use one thing at a time, but you had to pay a subscription in order to get the updates and all the other rare pedals that everybody wanted a digital copy of. So Mr. Two Hats in the house, how you doing, Maddie? And so there's that. The Disney Vault was the OG paywall. Yeah, you got that right. um so again, it's it's this control mechanism that's being set up. Now companies will say this model ensures consistent updates and innovation, but to be honest with you, it's just it's just a way to squeeze money out of it. It's all about revenue. It's all about locking customers in. And they know that there are a few customers who just they don't pay attention to it. So even if they increase it, you know, they're not paying attention because it's just on a revolving kind of thing, and they kind of count on that. So there's a little bit of that involved in it as well. As musicians, producers, or creators, we've been trying to build something that's somewhat lasting. Our instruments are a testimony to our tone, and we invest in them because they are part of our creative fingerprint. Yeah. And so, um, again, when you're renting your tools, you're renting your creativity. So I'm surrounding myself with hardware things now. I've gone partly digital with this Pocket Master because it works so well with these pedals, my analog pedals, and it's my sound. I still have that kind of control because I'm using it really just as a cabinet output. But that's good enough. And I don't have to be behind a paywall in order to access any of the sounds that are in it. And I am only interested in digital things that have that aspect to them. Anything else that, again, like that Boss pedal, forget about it. I'm not interested. You know, and I think that the alternative is not everyone can boycott subscriptions entirely. It's getting to that point where you either roll with it or you say I'm done, or you try to find a way to work around it. And sometimes, though, it is the only way to get access. And if you want to have access to that system that's being set up, you know, you can see exactly how that's going to go. It's for the very rich. I think it also ties in with why we're seeing so many troubles with economics in the middle class these days. Not just in the West, but in a lot of other countries that we're seeing uh, the middle class worldwide being eroded. because we're if it almost feels like we're moving back to a feudal system, and therefore only those who are in the nobility class, I guess we say, or the upper classes, will have the funds in order to get into this kind of system. A lot of these new artists that come out, they have these stories. Oh, we started out in our bedroom, we're just a bedroom group, but you find out that that bedroom was in a, multi-million dollar house owned by parents who were both, corporate lawyers. And once you hear that, you're like, oh, well, you could afford to get the equipment that you needed to get in order to get to where you wanted to go to, where somebody else who didn't have that leg up would have to work a part-time job, I guess, if they were young, or they'd have to, scrape and scrounge like I did. Work find a way to get in. But that way in that I win, that doorway that I went through, that door may not be available anymore. As a matter of fact, it's not may not be available. It's not. Omar, hey Omar, how you doing, sir? Good to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome to you. Omar says it's tricky. I don't like electric drums or auto tune. Yeah, yeah, it is tricky. I don't like, I moved away from drum machines and those kind of 808, 909, you know, those kind of sounds a long time ago, uh, and I can dig that. I am now using samples again, but like I used to, but of course, they're very high quality audio samples, so that helps. Auto tune, um, auto tune is a we used auto tune, and I have the auto tune that I use is a copy of the same unit we used to use back in the '90s in the studio. Uh, you know, every major studio had it. So that's nothing new. What would happen with auto tune is taking it and what happens if we turn it up to 10? Instead of putting the key of the song in there and allowing for a slight variation, but still keeping it human. That's how you use auto tune. We used to use it. Uh, Doing a share and putting it up to 10, well, that's interesting for a minute, but yeah, I use auto tune, but again, I use it in the way that I was taught to use it back in the '80s and the '90s. It's okay once in a while. Yeah, I got you, Omar. I got you, man. Again, it has its uses, just like compression has its uses, just like and its cider, an oral cider has its uses. You know, own what you can. Plugins, guitars, drums, whatever it is. Um, Permanent licenses do exist where you can download it. All the plugins that I have now in my now that I restored my plugin library back to where all of it I have backed up on a hard disk. It cannot go anywhere. It's not on some subscription. It's not behind a paywall. I don't have to go through some stupid portal in order to access them. They're there. And it was actually kind of freeing because to tell you the truth, I thought about it. Was there any good thing that came out of that waves issue? And I think what it was is I had too many plugins. I was doing crazy stuff. Well, I've got I was a being three or four different compressors on a song. On a certain on the drums. I had too many plugins. and I had a lot, but I wasn't really master of many of them, other than those that were recreations of hardware units that I used to work with. And now that all that's gone, and I've got myself down to this is my compressor, this is my limiter, this is my, I've got the things, the tools. These are the ones that I like. These are what I'm going to use, and this is going to define. And I like the way they sound. I like the recording of it. And I think that that's the way to go. That's just the way to go. My vocal processor boss. Hold on. My vocal processor boss. I gotta put on my glasses, guys, because I cannot see tonight. Sorry. My vocal processor boss V8 is the most confusing thing I've ever seen. Yeah, I was looking at one of those, actually, to tell you the truth, Scott. I was kind of curious about that. But I've got as a hardware alternative, because eventually even that is something that I'm going to want a hardware version of, and I can't afford, well, I can't afford the real deal. But unless Behringer has a version. But in any case, yeah, I looked at that. The plug, it's just one of those things. But I thought MIDI was cool for guitar in the 1980s. Yeah, yeah. If you want to hear the first real MIDI guitar, listen to Giorgio Moroder's work. Who passed away recently, by the way. Work with Donna Summers and Skunk Baxter on Bad Girls. That solo on that is one of the first MIDI synthesis guitar solos. As a matter of fact, I think it is the first MIDI synthesizers controller guitar solo. Yeah, Bad Girls. Check it out if you like that thing, Omar. If you like that kind of thing, you know, don't fall into the it's only $9.99 a month. That's a trap. Have your internal inner Admiral Akbar come out and remind you it's a trap, right? Because that's what it is. Because it is it's a slow creep. They used to boil the frog slowly turn up the heat. This time they got the thing on full boil. They're just throwing you in there, and that's just kind of the way it is. And that's how they get you. It's a trap. I don't know how many times I've sat here, last year and talked about the various traps that I'm seeing out there. I really do need to wear an Admiral Akbar T-shirt. It says it's a trap. No, Andy Summers did it too. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, correct. Absolutely correct. But which was first? Which was first? Because remember, Don Summer album, the album that I remember Andy Summers using MIDI guitar was Synchronicity, and that was '83. Donna Summer, Marauder stuff was '79. So anyway, unless they were doing something with the first, Police album in '78, pretty close there. Yeah, close enough where that probably is true. Now that I really think about that, interesting fact, Omar. Um, when Xbox crossed the line with pricing, gamers fought back. When Waves crossed the line with subscription, producers revolted. Did it change anything? No, changed nothing. You know, and it does, of course, give me hope, or that the guys over at the gamers table are now saying, hey, wait a minute. Just like we've been saying, hey, wait a minute, for a minute over here. Um, if enough people see this and there's enough pushback, they'll slow their roll. They're not going to stop their roll, but they will slow their roll. Now we are fighting a battle of having them slow the rolls. Their roll is going to roll, but we got to try to slow it where we can. And so punching back at this and saying no, canceling subscriptions, refusing to deal with companies that do these things, buying equipment that you know is yours, and it's cheap enough where you buy another one. Is a matter of fact, my on my this is gonna what my stocking stuffer this year is going to be. It's going to be a second one of these that I'm going to put away, and I'm not going to use it. It's going to be a backup because I like it that much. It's that useful. It works so well. It's so quiet with pedals. This pedal board is the quietest it's ever been. it's just beautiful. And I've got it all tuned in. I got my tone that I like. That the tone that I consider to be the quintessential Mike McWilliams guitar tone is the solo at the end of the song "The Blue Door" off my last album. That guitar solo at the end of that song is the tone that I hear in my head 99% of the time. And I was finally able to achieve it in a recording. And I've got the pickups that I use to record it with. I've got some of the pedals, and now I've got the board set up the way that I use it. I've got that tone. That's what I use to kind of to say, how does this sound? I match with that. I like that solo so much that I even now to this day I will go back and I'll listen to it. I really like that guitar solo, the tone of it, the tone, the feel of it, everything. But again, um, hardware that I don't have to, I can achieve that tone without having to use a plug-in from a company that shut me out from using that. But what if I had used Waves to do any kind of guitar work with? I'd be effed in the A. I really would be, no doubt. So, you know, the subscription trap, again, it's not just a price issue, man. It's an issue of control. It's a freedom issue. It is, you know, and that's just again, I talk about that narrowing, that channeling everybody into one direction. That direction is not a great one. Not a great one. Secret Journey 1981. Please listen to the intro. I will, Omar. My man came through. I appreciate that. Mike, why is the saxophone not in the orchestra? I do believe that the saxophone was an invention that came out. No, no, that's not true at all. There's a history of that. Yeah, that doesn't make sense either. Um, I'm not sure. That is a great question. You guys have great questions tonight, and I have no answers. It makes me feel inadequate. Makes me feel bad. You trying to make me feel bad? No, just kidding. I don't know why that is, honestly. Although in modern orchestration that I've seen performed down at the Concert Cabral, they did have saxophones in it because they were playing Gershwin and things like that. So it just might not have been an instrument that was popular for doing orchestration work with for a certain period. Certainly, as you get into the early 20th century, you start to see it, especially if you see live performances of Gershwin or Ellington or people in that ilk, that kind of thing. Secret Journey 1981. I'm gonna take a look at that. I'm gonna just ask my brother is probably has that album. Probably has the because he bought every Police album and he still keeps them. When they came out. See if he has that. Um, you know, honestly, let me read this again. I would say the illusion of freedom will continue as long as it's profitable to continue the illusion. And I think that's the key to that. It's as long as it's profitable, And what's the program after it's not profitable? Is the thing that really should, make people scratch their heads and say, So, everybody in the cafeteria is starting to get a wake up call on certain things that, impact their lives in terms of this cultural system that we find ourselves moving into. AI certainly is causing a stir at some tables because the writers' table. Hell, they came out with an AI actress this weekend, um, that that they can use for movies. Justine Bateman uh, came out, and she used to be an AI expert that SAG used to call upon, and she told them, well, I don't think that this is a great idea, and they didn't invite her into the final round of the discussions. And it turns out they signed off the right to use AI characters in movies and TVs and productions of that nature. So if you are a guy who used to be a background person for TV shows, casting, you get there, they pay you X amount per day, $100, whatever per day. You sit in the background and you act as a backing actor. Your job is over because they can now replace the backing actors with AI people who they don't have to worry about them being too loud or messing up the scene or doing anything like that because the truth of the matter is they're under total control. As a matter of fact, they can dictate their actions so that it looks more, think of a sitcom like The Big Bang Theory when they were in the cafeteria and you had the four principal actors and then you had all the background people there eating lunch as well. Well, all those people are out of a job now. And that's what Justine Bateman, that's what she was trying to point out. And so that's crazy. So a lot of the tables are starting to see that these programs, this system um, is really starting to bite in ways that people are yet to discover. One of the classical guitar players said that electric guitar was nasty and disgusting. Well, I think that they haven't heard Little Wing by Jimi Hendrix. I would I would I would say any man who could listen to that song and call it nasty and disgusting, the beauty of that, Little Wing by Hendrix. That's my answer to that, and that's a simple one. Well, I went next to two movie studios I've been told to get out of shot and offset more than once. Yeah, well, that job is gone because SAG signed the rights off for studios to start replacing people like that with AI, which they can do. They can do it. It's all digital shot anyway, so they can manipulate the film any way they want, 6 ways to Sunday. We know that. So again, this is about artistic freedom in a lot of ways too. We see on YouTube that some of the shorts are getting run through an AI processor and getting improved. And you didn't sign up for that or agree to that, or maybe you did. Check your terms of agreement again. So I told you, man, YouTube is what it is until it isn't anymore, and it is what it is. And I think someday you guys are gonna, some of you guys, most of you guys understand what I mean by that. You know, I think all these guys, well, oh, I quit my full time job to do this YouTube gig. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a basket that I would not have all my eggs in, especially looking at the way things are going. No, I'm just saying it's like people said cars are nasty. We only need horses. Yeah, yeah, I got your meaning there, Omar. Progress, you know, uh, you seem to have a very good music history to you, Omar. So you know that Bob Dylan got in trouble from switching from the folk guitar to the electric guitar at the Monterey what was that, like blues festival or whatever it was, and caused quite a stir. And so yeah, that's always been true. People have always kind of in the beginning back then. Jazz, well, jazz, the issue with jazz, they didn't care whether it was electric or not. The issue with the guitar and jazz was amplification because it's hard to hear an acoustic guitar over a freaking big band. And that's why you had Charlie Christian and guys like that design the early pickups, and things of that nature. So, yeah, there is that, you know. I just find it amazing. Has bluegrass and rock died off? Well, yeah, I think so. The last time yeah, yeah. I think, I don't know, man. It's weird. Calling some genres what they are and they're not, and it's a lot of weird stuff going on. Again, is bluegrass even bluegrass anymore? Because country isn't really country anymore. It's not the country that I remember. Every now, I mean, it's weird. Um, but here we are, guys, and we better wake up to it. One of the things that we should wake up to is that we're being boxed in. And if you want to be creative and you don't want to get boxed in, while you can, I would gather the bits and pieces that you need in order to do just that. Um, I refuse to ever again put myself in a position where I spent all that money and it basically got stolen from me. It's theft. It's theft in the case of waves. That's why I get angry about it, because they stole from me. The good thing, again, like I said, that came out of it is that it forced me to use less plugins and to learn how those plugins work in order to achieve a credible, recording. That was a good thing that came out of it. Everything else was just dirty, rotten, just rotten. I never understood why people say that Robert Johnson was so great. I think he sucks. Robert Johnson. Well, I don't. I think with Robert Johnson, it's again, it's that Delta. Squeeze my lemon till the juice runs down my leg. That's a Robert Johnson song, as I seem to recall. which probably, you have to, Omar, you have to admit that's a great title for a song. Which it's said later on, the Zeppelin turned into the Lemon Song. But I think it's that style, because one thing leads to one thing, which leads to another. From the slavery songs they sang in order to keep themselves going through the day, to how that got into the black church and became hymns, and how that translated into Delta blues, and how that translated into Big Mama Thornton, and how that turned into Elvis, and so forth. One thing led to another. I think that's what it is. That's what that is. No, again, just as Matty Two Hots just said it, no Robert Johnson, no rock and roll. These things, one thing leads to another, leads to another. That's the reason why he's considered what he is. whether we whether it's our cup of tea or not, but the point is that you can listen to that and you can say, okay, I can see, you know, in hindsight, how this evolved. So there's that, guys. Big thing that they're talking about is this asteroid that's or whatever it is. They're not exactly sure what it is. This Atlas thing. That's they're determining whether it's going to pass us by. If you have the sun, we're on this side of the sun. That thing is passing by on this side, and it should be gone by the time we get to that cross over the sun. However, they're saying it may stop at the sun, wait for us to catch up, and come and have a few words with us. It's not coming. Oh man, you set me up for a dirty joke. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I'm trying to clean myself up. Trying to clean my mouth up. Yeah, that's some funny stuff, man. Things like that don't frighten me. To be frank with you, they more or less amuse me. They're saying that this thing, came from the direction of a radio signal that was sent out in 1977. Came from that same part of the galaxy. Um, if you want to look into that, look on YouTube about the WOW, WOW, WOW signal. You can learn about that. But so, with all these things, plus a whole lot of other things, we have to kind of be sober minded and just be aware that there's a lot of things coming down the pike. Stop being at the sun state. Well, it's got to get a tan. I mean, it's been cruising through space. You got to go. You get awfully pale, if you're that far away from light, for millions of years. So yeah, it's gonna stop. Get a couple of cocktails, get the tan on, and then come say hello to us. But you hear about these things. I've been to Mississippi and had some great guitar players. Not Robert Johnson. Yeah, yeah, sure, yeah. My uncle Carlin would be one of them. But yeah, again, it's funny. So I used to be fascinated with stuff like that, astronomy and things of that nature. But now, with the kind of mindset that I've developed over the years, even that I kind of just look at and say, well, that's interesting. The church lady used to say, well, isn't that nice? Well, again, one of those glass prisons from Superman. I hope it's not General Zod, because if it's Zod, we got issues. We got problems. Whether it's Zod or a version of him. Which, they're actually saying that actually you're joking, Maddie, but they're saying that's a possibility of what it could be. That's yet one of many theories that are being put out there. We have to be sober minded about these things, and a lot of stuff is distractions too. You know, it's the things that are going on that you're not hearing about, or the things that you really should be worried about. I've said that before. I'll say it again. You know, so there's something to consider, guys. All right. Yeah, I guess that about wraps that up. That about sums that up. Um, I think that at the end of the day, get your hardware together and say I'm good, and you're going to be truly good, because I think there's really, at least just for your own pleasure. Because I don't think I can see clearly that the day is coming where that's not going to be something you can do anymore. Omar, Maddie, Scott, Mr. Watson, Mr. Allmark. Who else was here? Boss, but you got deleted. Boss says something good back here. I didn't catch. Sorry, I missed that. I wish I had seen it. Let them hang in a little bit longer if they're really juicy, so I can read them, because sometimes that stuff is funny to me. Scott. Mr. Watson, thank you guys, and everybody else who's watching and lingering in the background. The algorithm tells me that you are there, and I do appreciate you doing so, lingering and listening. Hope you enjoyed tonight's podcast as much as I enjoyed giving it to you, talking about the subscription trap that we're all falling into in so many different ways. It was 57 Russian flags. Oh, in that case, 56 is okay. 57, that's too much. Thanks, Scott. Thank you so much, man, for modding tonight for me. I am going to go to bed. I am tired, and wish you guys the best. Keep your health. Keep your loved ones near you. If you got a dog or a cat, give them a pet or a scratch, and spread the good joy, spread the good love around, and you'll be all right. You guys take care until the next one. Bye bye.